Hi everyone, welcome back to the best recapped movie. Olympus Has Fallen is a 2013 thriller starring Gerard Butler in which the White House is targeted by a terrorist group. After the president is taken hostage, there is a possibility of a world war at any moment. Spoilers ahead. Mike Banning, the former Ranger of the U.S. Army, who is now one of the president's bodyguards, practices boxing with President Benjamin Asher, and it seems that these two have a friendly relationship. They show up for a party on Christmas Eve, and Margaret, the president's wife, asks Mike what he thinks about her earrings. Connor, the president's son, is playing a game. After his parents join him, he explains to them that he is not in the mood for this official ceremony and at least asks his father to come with Mike, and he agrees. Before leaving, he asks one of his lower-ranking bodyguards, Dave Forbes, to stay in the castle and guard it. Despite his inner desire, Dave has no choice but to accept, and Mike, in coordination with other guards, announces that the president is leaving. The weather is extremely snowy and stormy, and from Mike and Connor's talk, it is clear that he knows the corridors and hidden cameras of the White House very well, and Mike jokingly tells him that I will make you a secret agent. On the other hand, Margaret gives Benjamin a Christmas gift in the car. He opens it and realizes it is his grandfather's watch, which make him happy. This time after kissing her, Benjamin gives her a Christmas present while the weather is very stormy. Before she opens her gift, a tree branch suddenly falls on the leading car due to a storm, and a chain accident occurs between the cars. The president's car also slides on the ice and is on the verge of falling from the bridge, and while Margaret is injured, Benjamin tries to save her. Mike asks Connor to stay in the car. After he and President's other bodyguards try hard to get them out of the car, he is forced to save Benjamin. Unfortunately, Margaret and two other bodyguards fall into the frozen lake. Connor gets out of the car and yells for his mother, and despite the arrival of other backups, it's too late. After 18 months, Mike wakes up in bed and joins his wife, Leah, who is preparing breakfast. She is talking to him, but he's focused on the news, so she turns off the TV and tells him, "You're not listening to me." Leah gets a little upset, but he approaches her and promises that they will watch a movie together at night, and after a little talk, Mike goes to work. It turns out that he is no longer the president's bodyguard and is now working in an office job at the Treasury Department. He is talking to his close friend Lynn Jacobs, who is the Secret Service director, and explains that office work bothers him a lot. Lynn also tells him that although Connor misses his mother, he misses him too. Then Roma, the new bodyguard of the president, and other bodyguards come to them. After a little conversation, they ask him to join them at the club to play poker on Thursday night. Leah is also a nurse at the hospital, and Mike calls her after he leaves work, but she doesn't have access to her phone. Mike leaves a message saying he will call her later. At the same time, in the White House, Benjamin looks at his wife's memorial and tells his son that he has 3 minutes and they can go to the kitchen and eat ice cream. In this case, Roma comes in and tells him that it's time. After Connor gets upset, he apologizes to him, and after kissing him, he shows up for his date. In the meeting, Speaker Trumbull advised that the Prime Minister of South Korea would probably ask him to threaten North Korea with war, which he should accept. After Benjamin declares his unwillingness to go to war, Secretary of Defense Ruth McMillan and Vice President Charlie Rodriguez agree with the president, so he thanks Trumbull and asks him to leave the meeting. On the other hand, the South Korean team is preparing to go to the president. After entering the White House, South Korean Prime Minister Lee Tae-woo introduced his senior advisor, Kang Yeon-sak, and they moved to meet Benjamin. Roma approaches Forbes, the new bodyguard of South Korea's Prime Minister and former U.S. Secret Service agent, and says it's good to see you. While Benjamin and Lee Tae-woo are discussing issues and problems related to North Korean threats, an unidentified warplane flies over the skies of Washington, D.C., and enters the restricted area despite military warnings. Roma informs him that they have been attacked, and the bodyguards quickly send him and the Prime Minister to the White House Emergency Shelter POC. By evacuating the White House staff, they equip the White House with a defense system against a possible attack. Suddenly, warplanes start shooting at people, and Mike sees this scene from his office window and quickly leaves the building. A large number of civilians and White House guards were killed in this attack. After neutralizing several missiles, the enemy plane is finally damaged by a missile and falls. As a result, part of the tip of the obelisk symbol is also destroyed. They inform Benjamin that the plane has been shot down. Still, it doesn't take long for another explosion to occur around the White House, and Mike identifies the suspects and kills one of them. The other opens the way to infiltrate the White House by killing and exploding himself. A group of attackers enter the White House and the shooting continues between them and the guards, and the killing starts again. Then, one of the security guards informed the president that the White House has been attacked on the ground. At PA, Forbes immediately kills one of the bodyguards, and all of the president's companions are disarmed and killed one by one. Lim, one of the prime minister's companions, gets access to the security system, and Colin, the main face of the attackers, beats the president and throws him to the ground by squeezing his throat. In the emergency meeting of the heads of the USA, Lin informs General Clegg, the US Army, that the president is in the PA, and on the other hand, Mike enters the White House and personally engages with the attackers and kills some of them. After that, Mike reaches the entrance of the White House, and at the same time, 2 trucks are suspiciously seen, which suddenly slaughter all the police forces and security guards of the White House with a barrage of bullets. Armored army forces are moving towards the presidential headquarters, and Lin, without knowing Benjamin's condition, warns that there may be a hostage situation. Mike, who is shocked and doesn't know what happened, suddenly notices the RPG shot by the attackers, and he quickly enters the building. Unfortunately, several other guards are killed, and he quickly escapes from the staircase before he is killed to be temporarily safe from their sight. Agent Roma and his team are the last group of guards to face the attackers, and the shooting starts in an escalating fashion. But they also don't last against their large number, and he is killed by one of them after being shot in the hand, and thus, the White House is occupied.
They've taken the White House.
The American army surrounds the White House, awaiting General Clegg's order. On the other hand, the first headline of the most important news channels in the world is the fall of the White House. As soon as the PA video call links, South Korean Prime Minister Lee Tae-woo is executed, and after Benjamin warns not to negotiate, Kang comes in front of the camera and announces that he has control of the White House and has taken the president hostage. He wants them to stop military operations. Clegg orders to stop the operation. Then it becomes clear that Forbes is one of the traitors in this attack and tells Benjamin that it was not without reason that he did not vote for him. The American flag descends from the White House, and its fall seems certain. After that, the attackers throw a radio plane around. Mike secretly kills several attackers and finds Connor's photo in the pocket of one of them, then disrupts the attackers' control over the building by turning off the CCTV cameras. While the hospital is full of wounded civilians, Leah decides to call Mike, but he doesn't answer, which worries her. Kang tells Benjamin in a conversation that he has come against him for justice and the formation of a united country. It is specified that the White House was attacked by the terrorist group, KUF, from North Korea, and then he ordered his men to find his son Connor. After Speaker Trumbull joins the meeting, Lin introduces him as the interim president of the United States due to Benjamin being taken hostage, and Ray Monroe also informs him that North Korea has rejected the intervention in this attack. Mike communicates with meeting using a secret emergency phone. After Mike introduces himself, Trumbull agrees to continue communicating with him despite Clegg and Ray saying he can't be trusted. He informs them that they have very professional commandos, that they have enough explosives to destroy an army, and that they are also looking for Connor, the president's son. Then Lin asks him to wait for orders. After that, Kang asks Trumbull to withdraw the American ships and soldiers from the Korean peninsula in another video call. Otherwise, he will kill the country's officials one by one, and they know that by doing this, South Korea will be occupied in 72 hours. He forces the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Admiral Joseph Honig, to reveal one of the access codes to Cerberus, and by pressuring them, Benjamin is forced to give permission. After they enter the code, Trumbull realizes this, and the consequences of this issue scare them. Mike calls them again and asks them to update him on what's happening. Since Cerberus is confidential, Trumbull reluctantly explains to him that Cerberus is a nuclear air defense system and that one of the access codes is now in the enemy's possession. Its codes are only for Defense Secretary Ruth McMillan, the Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman, Admiral Joseph Honig, and Benjamin. So he asks him to find Connor so they can't get access to his code by pressuring Benjamin through Connor. With the help of Forbes, Kong notices Mike's presence in the building and sends his forces to search for him, but he is aware of this, and when the attackers enter the room, they do not find him. He enters the walls, finds Connor there, and informs the bosses that he is safe and plans to send him out. Kong knows he hides behind the walls, so he orders them to shoot at him. Luckily, they escape, and he escapes Connor through one of the secret ways of the building and promises him that he will save his father. Connor goes to the outer space of the palace through a pillar, and the special forces takes him with vigilance. Fortunately, Connor's rescue operation was carried out successfully. Now, Mike's mission is to get the president out. After that, Trumbull announced in a speech that the president was still alive and reassured the people with encouraging words that the government was still functioning despite this attack.
God bless these United States of America.
Mike captures 2 Korean commandos and tortures them to confess, then reveals the identity of their leader during a call with Trumbull. By examining his history, Ray finds out that he was a terrorist who was the main cause of the explosion of the British embassy in Seoul and also stole the way to obtain nuclear energy from Pakistan. However, his face has never been identified by any government agency. It seems that Kang's men planted an explosive device inside the walls of P.O.C. After that, he contacts Mike and tries to ruin his mood about killing the First Lady with information about his background. However, Mike thanks him. He tells him that he has given him a chance to make amends and that he has killed many of his men and saved Connor. Kong gets a little angry and asks Forbes to go and kill him, then calls Secretary of Defense Ruth McMillan and punishes her in front of the president, forcing her to reveal the second Cerberus code. Despite the torture, Ruth is not willing to reveal the code, but Benjamin asks him to stop and orders her to tell the code, and she does it reluctantly and against her will. After entering the second code, Trumbull and the others are aware of this disaster. On the other hand, Forbes comes to Mike. He tries to pretend everything is normal, but after he unconsciously says Kang's name, Mike suspects him, and a fight begins between the two. Mike disarms him, stabs him in the heart, and asks him about his betrayal after he falls to the ground. He laments that he lost his way, and Mike asks him to lie to Kong that he killed him to make up for saving the president. He does so and then asks Mike to kill him. As she is tied up next to Benjamin, Ruth says that they may all be killed today, but she never wants to be written on her tombstone when she dies. She was killed without a fight. Trumbull and Clegg decide to attack there and tell Mike they can't wait any longer. On the other hand, Lim finds out about the helicopters, so Kong orders his men to set up a defense system to deal with the helicopters. The defense system prepares to deal with the helicopters, and Mike attacks the commandos by penetrating there and killing all but one of them. It's too late because the defense system shoots at the helicopters in a surprise and neutralizes them one by one. Mike carefully kills the last person and then destroys the defense system with an RPG, but 5 out of 6 helicopters fall, and one of them lands on the roof of the White House and destroys it. Kong then warns them in a video call that they have only 1 hour to return the battleship from the Korean peninsula and then provide him with a helicopter with enough fuel in the White House courtyard. Mike calls the leaders, and Clegg asks him to get out as soon as possible, but he says, "I don't work for you." The argument between Clegg and Trumbull escalates, and finally, Trumbull informs him that he only has half an hour to release Benjamin. Otherwise, they will have to give in to Kong 10's demands. After that, Mike calls his wife Leah, and after a little talk, he tells her that he will definitely come back in the evening. Now he is busy with office work and says goodbye to her, saying "I love you." This time, he makes a video connection with Kong and tells him, "It's like you saw a ghost." He assures him that he will definitely kill him, spreads his photos in the media, and asks him to keep a bullet for himself, otherwise, he will put his knife in his head. He gets furious and decides to kill Ruth, but when they send her outside the White House to shoot her from behind, Mike suddenly shoots at them. Secretary of Defense Ruth McMillan also escapes and is fortunately saved. Mike kills the rest of the commandos, but Kong escapes, and Trumbull praises him for saving her. Mike's time runs out as time passes, and Trumbull orders the helicopter to be prepared for him, and Clegg confirms that we lost South Korea. By covering Benjamin's head, Kong and his team prepare to board the helicopter to escape and try to mislead the special forces by covering their own faces. They board the helicopter, and it suddenly explodes as soon as it takes off. Everyone is shocked and in disbelief that the president was killed, and this news is published in the media. However, Mike calls Trumbull and informs him that he doubts Kang's death and believes that he and the president are still at PA, and then he is ordered to save him. His guess is correct as Kong appears to have activated the Cerberus system with the same 2 codes and explains to Benjamin that detonating America's nuclear arsenal is to turn North America into an irradiated wasteland and take revenge. USA leaders notice this big disaster and realize that he is planning to detonate the missiles inside the silos, so Trumbull says he has opened the gates of hell. Kong and some of his forces come out with the explosion of the wall and are immediately shot by Mike. In this conflict he kills all his men, and Benjamin is shot by Kong. With only 3 minutes left until Cerberus activates, a fight begins between Mike and Kong, and after a hard fight, he kills him by plunging a knife into his head. He examines Benjamin's wound but realizes that he needs to disable Cerberus as soon as possible. By informing Trumbull and proceeding according to the instructions, he luckily stops it. Everyone is happy, and while it is almost dawn, Mike and Benjamin leave the White House, and everyone cheers him for this victory. Connor returns to his father's arms, and Mike returns to his wife's arms. The flag of the United States flies over the White House again. In a ceremony, it seems that the president mentions the unity and pride of his country and assures the people that the United States will rebuild stronger than before. With the audience's applause, he shakes Mike's hand and thanks him, and the movie ends. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.